Guys, welcome back to the channel, doing another Serial Killer Files reaction. Again, if you like this type of content and want to see me continue to do this type of content, please be sure to hit that like button, that thumbs up, little down, that little thumbs up down there. Hit it. Really does mean a lot. And if you guys want to go even farther to help support the channel in a bigger, more financial way, even have your name included at the end credits, if you're with us for a good period of time, head on over to our Patreon page, or head on over to our merch store and get some cool-ass, retro-istic, badassery of all fucking hell merch. And rock that shit, because you can get a popcorn bucket on your hoodie and shirt. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and dive into this. This one has been recommended to me for a while, so I thought I'd go ahead and watch it, get an idea of what this guy is, and we will post Serial Killer Files for the most part every Tuesday. Well, maybe every Wednesday. We'll do every Wednesday. Every Wednesday for Serial Killer Files stuff. I think that's fair. That's pretty good. So Serial Killer Files every Wednesday. So okay, let's go ahead and dive into this. This one has been recommended to me a lot. So Peter Kurten, I think is how you pronounce the name. So,
a man.
Before we start, he's about to say a man. Before we start, I want to say that I don't glorify killers. I watch these videos to help me understand better on how to avoid people like this. I think they're good life lessons, so I take them very seriously. So that is why I watch Serial Killer Files and documentaries, because it helps me as a person be more self-aware of my surroundings. And I hope it helps you guys learn some things too, if you weren't already aware.
And so horrible, he was referred to as the Vampire of Dusseldorf. Today we discuss the monster that was...
Wow, what a title.
Let's open the Serial Killer File.
The Vampire of Dusseldorf. That sounds like a fantasy movie vampire name. This is definitely an older Serial Killer Files video. Okay, here we go.
Peter was born in Germany in 1883 to a large family. A family tormented by a sick, twisted father. Peter lived with 12 other members of his family.
I think this is an older video.
To be a single room. Peter's father was a
I could be wrong.
alcoholic and scarred all of his children in unimaginable ways. Peter's father would have the children assemble and force his mother to strip and engage in sex in front of the children. Not only this, but he molested Peter's sisters and even ended up being in prison for attempting to rape one of them when Peter was 16.
Wow. Already, literally not even a minute and 30 seconds into the video, and I already understand why this guy is probably going to end up to be a serial killer. He would force their mother in front of all the kids, like a show, because I guess that was a kink to him, letting his kids watch him. Okay, and then his own sister. Okay, yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. I'd curve stomp the shit out of that guy.
Learned a lot from his father, which would explain why Peter began molesting his sisters. But that was only the beginning. Peter came into contact with a sadistic dog catcher that happened to live in the same building. This dog catcher introduced Peter to the joys of torturing animals and coerced him into acts of bestiality with the dogs he had caught.
Oh, fucking
Peter had
hell.
A taste for violence, and very quickly at that. However, animals wouldn't suffice forever. At the age of 9, Peter committed his first murders. While swimming with 2 boys on a river, he shoved one of them beneath the raft they were on. When the other boy they were with jumped in to help the boy, Peter forced him underneath as well, where both boys drowned. The incident was seen by police as an accident. By the age of 12, Peter had moved with his family to Dusseldorf. He took his lessons with him, often trying to have sex with his sisters and other various schoolgirls. At the age of 13, Peter began engaging in sexual acts with sheep, pigs, and goats.
Oh my God.
He expressed a special type of satisfaction whenever he would stab a sheep to death while he engaged in sexual intercourse with
I
it.
don't understand these people. I don't understand them.
His father's violence and met a prostitute who was into violence and perversion. A perfect fit. This would become the nature of his relationships. He was even known to date prostitutes that were twice his age.
Oh,
Peter
my.
claimed his first adult murder in 1899 in a park, strangling the woman to death while he had sex with her. Peter would find himself in and out of prison, at times for theft, at times for fraud, and one time in particular for attempting to shoot a woman with a rifle. Peter was drafted into the military once he was released from prison, but soon deserted and began setting fires to barns and other buildings where he had hoped homeless people might be sleeping inside.
Oh my
He
God!
wanted to hear them burn alive. Peter was eventually sentenced to 7 years in prison for a...
This guy is just fucking sick. He's sick. And I'm not saying sick like actually like coughing and sneezing. I'm saying he is sick and sadistic in the way that he is too fucked up that I don't even know if I can show sympathy for this guy. And I don't show sympathy for these guys. I don't. I absolutely don't. I don't show them for her or him. If they are serial killers, I just don't have sympathy for them. I can understand having a rough childhood. I can understand being tortured as a kid. I can understand seeing things you should not have seen as a kid. And maybe that might have had a mental, psychological effect on you. But for... the actions are on you when you get older.
theft charge.
Sorry,
he claimed to have poisoned a number of inmates in the prison hospital. Upon his release, Peter kicked into the next gear, raping a servant girl and accosting women at a local restaurant. When a waiter stepped in to intervene, Peter drew a pistol and chased him off with gunfire. Peter earned a whole entire year in prison for the trouble he had caused. A year later, now 19...
Sounds like should have got more than a year.
He was again released, where he broke into a pub while the owners were away. He crept into their living quarters and found their 13-year-old daughter asleep in bed. He cut her throat and sexually assaulted her dead body. Upon fleeing,
I can't fucking stand this guy.
An error he would never pay for. He dropped a handkerchief at the scene. Upon it were his initials. It didn't quite matter, however. The girl's father, who owned the pub, had recently engaged in a severe argument with his brother. His brother swore to do something he would never forget.
So his brother's
Police
gonna...
suspected the pub owner's brother. The owner's name was Peter Klein, the same initials as the true killer. Peter followed the court proceedings and laughed. But Peter's terror was just getting started. Peter was more than capable of stepping outside of his desired demographic for murder. He didn't need his victims to be young, defenseless women. He even hacked a man with a hatchet and immediately reached climax at the sight of the blood. After attempting to strangle 2 women sometime later, Peter was sent back to prison for 8 years for unrelated charges. The authorities still had no idea that Peter was a killer with an insatiable thirst for death. In 1921, at almost 40 years old, Peter was released from prison.
Of course he was.
Once again, Peter
of course he
had
fucking
found
was.
romance and true love once again with a woman who had served 5 years in prison for shooting her fiancé. Peter proposed to her repeatedly, each time being denied. This was until he threatened to murder her. She then decided that saying yes was her best option, and so the two were happily married. It had seemed that the married life had calmed Peter down, for a few years anyway.
You know, I'm just going to say right now, if you're a woman and a guy threatens you because you won't marry them or do something with them, get the police involved. Just get the police involved. Or get someone who can kick the fucking guy's ass involved, because we should not let people like that run shit. Just saying. Yeah, if I ever found out that a girl was being threatened to be with the guy because he said so, I'd fucking kick the fucking living piss out of him.
In 1925, after sexually assaulting 2 servant girls, Peter returned to Dusseldorf for his final reign of terror. 4 more attempted strangulations, along with over 15 buildings being burned to the ground. Peter was
He really likes burning people.
It took 4 years until he would hit his stride. He stabbed a woman 24 times and left her for dead in the street. Fortunately for her, she survived the attack after
24 stabs and lived. Wow.
Not so fortunate was the mechanic Peter stabbed 10 days later. He died of his injuries. A few weeks later, the body of an 8-year-old girl was discovered raped and stabbed 13
8 years
times.
old.
Another victim
8 years
of
old.
Peter's bloodlust. He attempted to burn her body to dispose of evidence. Though all victims had been stabbed in the temple, police failed to see a pattern because of the difference in the victims. It would be a few months before Peter resumed his reign of terror. He strangled a woman and dumped her body in a river. 3 people were stabbed repeatedly in Dusseldorf in hit-and-run attacks, but all thankfully survived. 2 young girls, one aged 5 and the other aged 14, were both found dead near their homes with their throats cut. Peter harassed a woman for sex, which she denied by saying, "I'd rather die." He stabbed her several times before he fled. Though she survived and gave a good description of her attacker, police rejected the idea of a single killer being responsible. The next month,
The police around here sound like a fucking bunch of dumbass fucking...
Peter strangled 3 more women, but all survived. He killed a 4th victim by smashing her head with a hammer. The following month, he killed another woman with a hammer, and then attempted to kill 2 others, but they survived. Peter strangled and stabbed a 5-year-old girl 37 times until she died. When police discovered her body, they also discovered another girl stabbed 20 times, raped, and then buried. He was said to have even drank some of the blood of these victims.
Well, that explains the vampire
luck
thing.
had eventually ran out when his final victim, who he invited over to his house and then took a stroll with through the woods, was able to fight him off. He let her go when she assured him that she had forgotten where he lived. But of course, she hadn't. She brought police right to Peter's location and he was arrested. He openly confessed and, in court, claimed insanity. The defense was rejected. The jury only took 90 minutes to decide Peter was guilty. He was sentenced to die by the blade of the guillotine. He informed a psychiatrist that his greatest thrill, better than any murder, would be to hear his own blood splatter all over the ground as his head was severed. He lost his head on July 2nd, 1931,
Die.
with a smile on his face. That's all in this file. However,
he was just actually evil.
He was for the next serial killer file. Much like the killers themselves, you just never know when one might pop up. If you have a suggestion for a serial killer you would like to see featured in a future episode, you can tweet it to me at @TheRobDyke. And don't forget to subscribe because you won't want to miss who's next. Case closed.
Oh, fucking hell. Okay, so this one was actually one of the harder ones to get through, I think, out of all of them so far, and it's because the fact that he would... it's very descriptive. I'm not going to go into full detail, but I think you can obviously tell why it was hard to get through. Yeah. The guy was just pure evil, man. This is a good example of just somebody who just don't give a fuck. He's just evil. He doesn't deserve to live. No, he doesn't deserve to live at all. As a matter of fact, I was very much happy. I almost smiled to know that he got his head cut off by the guillotine. So comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Sorry if I got a little fucked up there, but yeah, okay. Yeah, people like that. Comment down below. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Again, support us on Patreon if you guys really like this channel. If you guys want to see the reactions continue, it really does help this reaction channel out a lot. Our first goal is 150 patrons. Help us reach that goal. It really is a badass thing. So I'll check you guys out in the next video. Keep it retro and take care. Holy shit, Michael. We made it to We Slaughtered Barbecue. The epitome and the purpose of our trip is to make it to this area.
Oh yes. Food and cattle.
Yep. I just noticed, is that a cemetery way over there, or are those cattle?
No, I think that is a small cemetery.
Holy shit, that's kind of cool and creepy. That thing is massive, but there's not just that one. There are spiders literally
There's
everywhere.
one there. There's one there. There's one over there. And then there's this one here.
Dude, they're everywhere on the property.
Huge.
It's
Oh,
cool.
there's one there.